This is why. Look at us.
Yeah.
We're in pretty much the same sweater. This is why. I'm saying for the viewers out there,
you Wesleyan focused.
You could wear the same thing as someone else every day from a friendship you meet at Wesleyan. This is why.
It's a complicated conversation.
I do think it's like a very sensitive subject in culture right now, and I think there is something where there are words that like kind of perk people's ears up, and it's easy to kind of shut down certain jokes and conversations just because of certain words.
There's always a very specific group of people who gets upset at the PC police, and it's the people who are usually like in the kind of dominant social group. It's always the people who have benefited from the old system who take most issue with it. There's a way to be satirical, and there's a way to be subversive by pushing the envelope. I also think there's just like a basic like respect level. As history arcs into acceptance of more groups, like it will always be evolving. It will always change. There are so many groups that it was totally cool to make fun of, and now it's like not really anymore. So you just have to always be evolving with that, and some people are just more hesitant to evolve, and honestly, like I think that's their problem.
There's something where like people, if they even hear a word that they find not PC, they'll kind of jump on it. I don't agree that like there needs to be no PC correctness political correctness in comedy, but there is something where it's like, what is the intention? Like, I think some people can use politically incorrect speech in order to kind of draw attention to a larger problem, and I think that there is, it does come down to an issue of intention. If you're intending to hurt people or intending to offend people, then that's one thing, but if you're intending to draw attention to something in a way that's provocative and also controversial, I think that's okay.
I do think there are very successful ways to practice comedy, to be funny, to do satire that doesn't offend people.
I do think though there's something where it's like, if I went to do a college show and I called myself a cunt. To use the C word, it's an offensive thing to say for many people. But I think there's a way to kind of reclaim it in a way that there's an intention behind me calling myself a cunt that is not to belittle or offend women. You know, there's a way to like kind of reclaim certain language.
And I think it's also like who has the ability to do it.
Yes.
Because you have the authority to do that.
Yes.
Whereas if I got on stage and called a woman that,
it'd be different.
I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Offensive jokes don't really carry. If you watch stuff from the 90s, especially the early 90s, it's like
Friends.
Oof, yeah. I just like warn all the people who are really defending their offensive joke and saying like it's not such a big deal. Like, well, one day it's just not going to read. One day you're going to have a syndication deal, and this is going to be seen in the year 2025, and it's like going to fall flat on its face. Whereas I think there is timeless comedy. I think a movie like Airplane is something that can stand the test of time because it wasn't, targeted at anything. Nobody wants conversations about comedy to get serious. It's like, oh, what a boner killer. If it's like, oh my God, we're talking about like the merits of a joke. But this is like kind of what has to be talked about. Of like, comedy is, I think at its best, comedy just makes you understand and appreciate the world more, and it makes you see it through a different lens. All of creativity is just limits. It's like enhanced by limitations. So if you just see that as a limitation, then that's just like a cool challenge. Like how are you subversive? How do you say something without just like going to that easy like, I'll cut this group down.
This is I'm donating this sweater. I'll leave it in a pile by Uzdan.